Hooded figures ride south along the Greenway on approach to Tharbad. Mounted on horses, they are approaching this once great city that spanned the Grey Flood throughout ages, where once Elendil and his sons and the surviving men of Numenor built a massive bridge and trade network between the north in Arnor and in the south past the Gap of Rohan. This, of course, being well before the Rohirrim were ever founded. But as the figures approach, we see Drustan, the mercenary, and his allies. They reach the gates at the north bank and rummage through their saddlebags as they approach to hoist a banner waving the white hand of Saruman, and a large pouch clinking with coins. The watchmen at the gate smile and nod, accepting the bribe for their new captain of the haven, and allow the troop to pass through the city and continue south toward Isengard with news of Iorlas. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the One Ring 2nd Edition Strider Mode here on the Rene Plays Games podcast. I'm very excited for a lot of things that are coming up, so some quick announcements before we dive back into the episode and some more One Ring, but I got some exciting things to talk about. First is that the system-agnostic adventure anthology that I've been working on with Christian and Amber from the Westworld Public Library and the DMs After Dark, we've been putting it together with 10 local authors. We've put together 10 adventures that you can drop into various types of games and systems or just run them as they are presented with some recommended games that would fit the vibes and mechanics of it well, and that is all going to be coming out very, very shortly. I think that there will be a link in the description of this if you want to hop into some of the first public plays of these games. The designers of them are going to be hosting online public, it's not playtesting because they are done. We've playtested them and we've edited them and they're going to be coming out, but they're going to be running their own adventures so you can get in on some of those. It's very cool. I worked with 3 of the designers and writers, and I'm really excited about how these came out. I played in some of the other ones. I got to watch other playtests, and it's just a really cool thing that Amber has done with the Westworld Public Library and public institutions like that, and how she has secured grant money to provide games to the public like this, and not just provide games, but provide a community and bring people in as writers and designers and start talking about these things and use the incredible resources at her disposal as a librarian to publish a game like this. So go check it out. I am very, very excited. And when we know more about where you'll be able to get that, it'll be a PDF on drive-thru. There'll be physical copies that are going to be sale through the library and things like that. I will share those links, obviously, when I get them. Other exciting things is this month's Perspective Checks episode is with Cesar Capacli, one of my favorite game designers, because he has a game coming out later this month called Mousesworn, which is What If Mouse Ritter and Ironsworn Kissed, and that is a game that is so far up my alley. Cannot wait to get my hands on it and play that game. You can be sure I will be playing it on this podcast in the near future, and I had a great time talking to Cesar, so I hope that you enjoy that conversation. And then the rest of the month is going to be the usual. We're going to play some One Ring a couple of times, and we're going to continue our Ironsworn Legacies playtest in the last episode of the month. I think I'm going to do that again in September, and then come October, you know it's spooky month season. We always do a bunch of stuff here on the Rene Plays Games and DMs After Dark feeds for Halloween and spooky season, so expect some more of that. Alright, that's the end of announcements. Let's get Iorlas down to the Cape of Eryn Vorn. The episode begins transitioning from the cold open, where Drustan and his allies are passing through the flooded Tharbad. It cuts to Iorlas, who is nursing his injured arm, but we see that he has spent a good portion of the night digging the wet, soaking, soggy soil into 2 mounds and has buried the 2 raiders that attacked him in the barn. And he looks muddy and dirty and exhausted. And we see him looking at the clouds of the storm as they have sailed past and are now off in more distant lands, and looks at the day ahead of him and wonders whether or not he should nurse this arm another day before he leaves. But he looks at Romelia, and he looks to the southwest in the direction of Eryn Vorn, and he, despite his exhaustion, hops on and rides off along what is now no longer a road. We are going to montage a bunch of travel events because I did roll for them. If you are part of the DMs After Dark Discord, you know that on the Rene Plays Games channel, we talk a lot about, I'll joke about my dice luck when episodes come out and things like that. And a few of the folks there said, hey, you are really hard on yourself on these fights. So they suggested I take a few easy W's, and I'm going to montage some of the travel events. And fun fact, I did not massage any of the dice rolls for the travel events, as you will see when we eventually zoom back in, but I did have some pretty good dice luck on these journey checks and the travel rolls as Iorlas makes his way from the Barrow Downs outside and south of Bree as he travels along the river Baranduin. So we're just going to quick montage, and I will explain what I rolled and what I got, and we'll zoom in and you'll know why. First, we see Iorlas astride Romelia. He is, after the events of the barn, exhausted. He's still wounded, and he is traveling along the edge of the river when he makes it to a well-known ford known as Sarn's Ford, which crosses the Baranduin. And when he arrives here, you know, this is a well-traveled area, and he's expecting to maybe run into some people, so his guard is up. But what he finds there is not immediately a camp of some kinds of people, but he sees signs that he knows people have come through here, and they are very subtle signs that probably would only be visible to a handful of people, such as, I mean, when it comes to men, maybe really only rangers like him. And he, intrigued by them, follows them, and we rolled a success with a special, which means that we made haste and took less time to get here. And when we arrived, I rolled that there is a noteworthy encounter. So I rolled a 10 on the journey events table for a chance meeting, and then a 6 on that table for a noteworthy encounter to meet with a group of elves that were also sent out from the Grey Havens, which is where Círdan the shipwright is, and the person who gave Iorlas this quest to investigate the dark woods along the Cape of Eryn Vorn. So this is incredibly chance meeting here for Iorlas to be able to meet with these elves who, if he knows Círdan and he has spent time in the Grey Havens and in Linden, then presumably he knows these elves. And I think that he maybe has passing familiarity with them. I think that, you know, first name basis might be difficult, but he is at least passingly familiar with these elves, recognizes them for where they're from, and greets them. And the elves may be surprised that a ranger has found them, recognize Iorlas for what he is, and welcome them into their camp. This is going to get us an additional skill point because it's a noteworthy encounter, and it does say that if noteworthy encounters may require rolls and things like that, that can get you even more rewards. But I decided there's a whole section actually in the Ruins of the Lost Realm book about these elves and about what they are searching for, and I thought, oh, I could do a whole side quest about this. But then I thought about it, and I don't think Iorlas would be the type to put a pause on his mission down to Eryn Vorn for Círdan, especially after it's taken him so long to get to Bree, north to Fornost, back. The troubles and woes that he's had, he is now fully committed to heading south to see his quest through for Círdan. But I think that he's a messenger, so I had Iorlas roll lore to see if he knew anything about the surrounding environs of Sarn Ford and where these elves may be looking. There was an ancient elven refuge, and he may have passed through it. I rolled the lore and got a success to say that Iorlas knows a little bit about the grove nearby and that it is a dark place. He warns the elves about what they may run into there and wishes he could join them, but between his injured arm and the delay on his getting down to Eryn Vorn for Círdan, he's unable to join them and just wishes them well. He spends the night with these elves, they share a meal, and both parties leave in high spirits. So that was a very positive chance encounter with these elves, and that leaves this adventure, this little quest, open for anybody who wants to play that from the Ruins of the Lost Realm book, and I read through it and it does seem really, really cool, and I kind of wish I did it, but at the same time, I don't want to really go off on tangents here. So after that, Iorlas, his arm healed because we rolled a 1 on the wound table. He wakes up the next morning, maybe it's something about spending the night with the elves, maybe it's something about what they ate, but his arm is feeling rested and better, and he can flex his hand and hold his buckler and feels like he is back at mostly full strength. The next day we rolled again on the journey tables and got a success, but our journey event was despair, and it is a grisly scene or foreboding portent. Then we see Iorlas continue along the southeastern banks of the Baranduin, and he is traveling along Romilia when he comes upon the ruins of an old village. At first, maybe there's a little bit of hope that he might be running into people he can trade with, he can help, he can get new supplies and things from, and then he remembers as a messenger, he probably has not come out this way very often. A lot of Minhiriath and Cardalan and these areas are, since, the Great Plague, abandoned, and that is what he remembers, is that this was an old village, known for its vineyards and its wine, known as Windcross. And he slowly strolls through on Romilia and sees that in 1,000 years plus since the Great Plague, I think it's something like 1,400 years, it has never once been successfully resettled. And as he passes through, I think not only is that a grisly scene or foreboding portent, but I think that maybe he also notices there are remnants of a fire, no older than a few days, a few nights old. With a heavy heart, he continues his journey to the southwest, across the wild lands of Minhiriath, and Iorlas comes upon a moment where there's a fork in his travels towards the Cape of Eryn Vorn, and he must make a decision. He can attempt to navigate the wilds along the Baranduin, or swing wide along the plains. The plains would be more reliable, but the shortcut offers a significant reduction in the time it would take him to arrive there. He just needs to be able to explore and navigate his way through this tangle of trees and valleys. He decides to go for the shortcut. I rolled Explore, invoking my bold, distinctive feature, and succeeded, meaning that this journey is going to take one less day, and I got a special success on it to allow me to make haste as well. So Iorlas leads Romilia into the underbrush, and between the two of them, they get through in good time. But he's making his way through this forested vale to save himself time from going around it, and Iorlas emerges from the other side, and our next journey event was, unfortunately, I rolled and got a failure despite being inspired and favored in travel. I rolled 2 3s on my feat die and low on my skill dice to fail, and when I emerged, coming out of the shortcut, Iorlas is feeling hopeful. He's just saved a whole lot of time, and then his hope is dashed as he enters the Darklands, nearing the Cape of Eryn Vorn. Even this far from the high rocky cliffs of its promontory, the woods here feel more ominous. They're thick and overgrown, and speak to how difficult the rest of this journey is going to be. Not to mention, Iorlas has not forgotten the hair on the back of his neck standing up, that an eye is watching him. An attention has been piqued, one which he does not want. As he enters his first bits of the woodland leading into the dark forested cape, he loses any sort of track or path except for one game trail. He must duck to pass through. Romelia is struggling to get through it, and eventually he gets through, and it opens into a small clearing, littered with bones. From small animals to larger ones, Iorlas is afraid to identify. Again, the hair on the back of his neck stands, and he's ambushed by a lone warg, a wild wolf, but he avoids the worst of it as he brandishes Nimloth's tear and is hacking away in these tight quarters, the wolf trying to get any kind of high ground or ambush spot from the thick vegetation, and he cannot do so. Iorlas pulls the horn of Corihel and blows it, causing the warg to flee into the woods. Normally, this would be a wound, but I rolled a Gandalf rune, meaning that the wound that I would have suffered is passing, and I do not have to actually wait and mark wounds. So Iorlas got incredibly lucky despite having been ambushed by a warg in the outskirt forest of Eryn Vorn. So Iorlas continues. Heading southwest, we are now in the Darklands. The woods are only going to get thicker and darker and older along this cape, where no axe has felled a tree, no thunking of an axe has ever been heard in these woods, because these trees are monstrous. And not just that, there are men here, wild men, forgotten to the cultures of Middle-earth. They are rumors, but to Iorlas, rumors have a grain of truth in them, and he is incredibly careful as he is making his way through these woods. We succeeded on our next journey event, but we rolled an Eye of Sauron for the journey event table, meaning we had a terrible misfortune. Continuing into the dark forests of the Cape, time passes, and Iorlas begins to hear howls of wargs. At first distant, but then getting closer. Iorlas is keeping his guard up, his hand on the hilt of Nimloth's tear, and for good reason, because when he camps that night, he first hears a howl ring out far, far away, perhaps to lure him into a false sense of security. But then he hears the snap of a twig and catches the scent of the foul beasts upwind of him, and when they ambush, he is ready. We are going to go into a combat against 1d6 divided by 2 wargs. 3 wargs. And there is a stat block here for a wolf chieftain. I'm going to ask the telling table, is one of these 3 wargs a wolf chieftain? I'm going to say it's likely, so I pretty much just have to roll a 4 or higher. That is a 10. Yes, absolutely, one of them is a chieftain. Iorlas is about to be attacked by 3 wargs, one of whom is larger and more vicious than the other 2. And this is where we're going to zoom back in. Eryn Vorn is not very inviting. Alright, so the first thing, as always in a combat, we're going to do is start with the opening volleys, and I did say that Iorlas is prepared, so I think that he has his archet bow out and ready to go, and I have totally goofed on using my archet bow, because each roll with it is supposed to get +3 when you shoot with it or if you use it for hunting. So that's crazy, and I can eventually add my valor to it, which is already 2, but so we're going to shoot our opening volley, and then technically I would say that these wolves don't have a ranged attack, but all wolves, all wargs, have a ability. All wolves of the wild share the Great Leap Fell ability. They can spend 1 hate to attack any player hero in any combat stance, including rearward. So even if we're trying to play far back and shoot, these wolves can leap with their Great Leap and attack. So we're going to say all 3 leap into combat with Iorlas. Oh, that is an incredibly lucky opening volley shot, as I got a 10 on my feat die for a potential piercing blow, and 2 2s on my skill dice to get a 14, which will succeed against my strength TN of 12. So I'm going to deal damage, but it is a piercing blow. We're going to go ahead and say that it's very unlikely that I hit the chieftain. I think the chieftain would let the other two wargs jump in first. So we're going to attack one of these normal wargs, these wild wolves, and they're going to have to make a armor check, a protection check against this piercing blow. The Archet bow's injury rating is 16, and they only have 1 armor for their defense, so we're going to roll a d12 and a d6 for them and get an 11, which is going to immediately take down one of these wargs as they only have 1 might. So that's incredible. 1 warg already down. And we will let the other 2 jump in. I actually think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the 1 hate for the other warg that was jumping in to do the Great Leap, and then I think the leader is going to do something called Howl of Triumph, which allows him to spend 1 hate to restore 1 hate to all other wolves in the combat. So he's going to go down to 3, and the other is going to stay at full. Here goes, they are rolling +3 on this leap, so with their fangs. Oh, that is an enormous hit. That is going to be an 18, which is above our parry, and they got a 10 on the feat die, so I may also be taking a wound here. Here goes. Iorlas is going to roll a protection roll against their injury rating of 14. All right. Oh no. That is going to be a failure. I got an Eye of Sauron and 7, so that is not going to be enough. I need to roll a d12 to see how severe this wound is. And I get a 2, so I am wounded for 2 days now. Oh my gosh. Just keep getting wounded. Brutal. Oh, but for the record, I do have Iorlas back at full endurance after camping with the elves and everything like that, and the nights that he's been resting, where he can recover his strength in endurance. So I'm going to go ahead and just take the first damage to this here, and that's going to be 3 damage from this wolf's fangs, bringing us down to 23, but inflicting us with a wound. Iorlas weathers the actual weight of the warg as it lands on him, and his fangs tear into, the arm around the buckler, but maybe he hits his head on the ground from the whiplash of getting landed on, and he flings the warg off as the other warg howls. And now we are going into regular combat, but, as I said, Iorlas was prepared. He throws the warg off of him and is now flanked on either side. One of the wargs that he took out and the one that he just flung over him are large. I mean, they are large enough for orcs to mount and ride. These are huge, huge wolves, non-natural. And then he looks at the other, who pads in from the shadows to the edge of his camp where the light of his fire illuminates, and he sees that this one is way bigger and looks way more vicious. Iorlas reaches his hand into the fire and pulls out a torch, a piece of wood that he left burning at the edge, and wields it in one hand while Nimloth's tear comes free of its sheath in the other, and he is going to attempt to get rid of the other warg, I think, before the chieftain. So we're going to roll with swords, which we now have 3 skills, or 3 ranks in, so we're going to roll a d12 plus 3 d6, and I get another 10 on the feat die. Oh my gosh. Hey, listeners, maybe I'm not letting myself get some easy W's, but maybe the dice know I deserve one, as I say after I get a wound. But Iorlas, despite this wound, his head kind of swimming, he turns and knows that the other warg is about to be rushing in. Oh, it does have an ability. When targeted by an attack, spend 1 hate to make the roll ill-favored. Alright, we're going to do that. We're going to spend another hate of this regular warg. Oh! Turn it into another Eye of Sauron, which means that that's worth 0, and my 9 on my skill dice mean nothing as I fail to attack this other warg. Okay, yep, we're in trouble now. Okay, now this warg is going to attempt to attack us again with fangs, and oh my goodness, that's terrible. That's 7 total, so Iorlas easily fends off the other one as the huge chieftain, the wolf chieftain, is now going to attack us. It has fangs and it has claws that it can rake down our back. Now, for the record, because Iorlas is wielding this torch in his hands, they do have a fell ability that says Fear of Fire. The creatures lose 1 hate at the start of each round it's engaged or in close combat with an adversary wielding a torch or other sort of burning item. So they are losing hate quickly as Iorlas is swinging it around, and maybe that's why this other warg failed to hit. But here goes. We're going to attempt to, we're going to claw with the leader as he's going to rear up on huge back legs and come down with a massive, powerful paw. And that is going to hit our parry of 17 with a 10 on the feet die, which means that this is likely another wounding attack here. So let's go ahead and we're going to take the 4 points of claw damage. So our endurance isn't too bad right now. We haven't actually lost that much hits, but we're just taking hits that are hurting us. So this injury rating is 14. Iorlas rolls and gets that one with an 18. We get a special success on that, which I don't know if it matters. But you know what? I'm going to say it does because I'm going to need the help, and I'm going to use the Build Advantage special success. It says, you carry forward your success to improve your position or confidence for a related task, gaining 1 die on your next skill roll. So I think that Iorlas, instead of dodging out of the way of this heavy blow, takes it, and again, maybe with that injured arm, feels the damage on it as this huge warg paw comes down on his arm, and he is going to attack with his sword, Nimloth's Tear, and he's going to get +1 die on this for d12 plus 4 d6 against this warg chieftain. That is absolutely going to hit that, but I only got 1 6 on it and not a piercing blow. I don't think I can make it into a piercing blow, so instead spend the success to do a heavy blow, which adds the strength rating of Iorlas to our damage, making it 10 endurance damage to this warg. And that is going to be greater than twice its attribute level, which is going to mean that because of the hammering special quality of Nimloth's Tear that we have unlocked, knocks this chieftain, this warg chieftain, back, and it kind of rolls over, and we hear like the whimper of a wolf before like the snarl of it, and it is going to have to spend its next turn getting up, which is awesome. The other warg does get to attack us though, and is going to leap at us with its fangs. Oh my gosh, that is a 9 on the feet die plus 2 6s. So I got to take a look at what this warg can do. As always, they can do the same thing as we do with a heavy blow, I believe it says. They always choose to deal a heavy blow, which is going to deal an additional endurance loss equal to the attribute level, which for the regular warg is 3. So that's going to be 6 total damage with the fangs. But then with the other 6, it has the pierce ability. And it says the attacker scores a well-aimed strike, modifying the feet die result by +2, which is going to turn it into a piercing blow. Oh no. Okay, so we are going to take 6 more damage. We are rapidly approaching weary, and now we are going to have to take a wound. Let's roll this one here. I succeed at this one, so I'm not going to take a wound, luckily. Oof, he's getting hit hard as he turns and slashes and hits this chieftain back. The other warg jumps on his back, burying his fangs into Iorlas' shoulder, and Iorlas is going to swing the fire. Maybe he's going to even try and poke the fire up in its face. We're going to use this as though it were a sword strike, so we're going to roll d12 and 3d6 against this warg on our back and get an Eye of Sauron. Oh my gosh, Iorlas cannot get this warg off of his back, and I'm going to go ahead and say with that Eye of Sauron, it's just going to deal 3 more damage, bringing us down to weary. The other warg is spending its turn getting up. Iorlas is going to have to just deal damage. Come on, Iorlas. There we go. That will hit as we're going to get this other warg off of our back. It is unfortunately barely a hit with no 6s, so we're just going to deal 4 endurance damage to this warg. But both of them are now out of their hate because of the fire that Iorlas is waving around. And here goes. They're both going to make attacks. I'm in really bad shape. That is a Gandalf rune for them, which is a 0, so that's going to be a miss, despite having a 5, a 6, and a 4 on their 3d6. And then for the chieftain, that is a 5 on the feet die plus, let's see, 12. Oh, 12 for exactly a 17 with his attack, which is with 1 6. So that also has the pierce ability, but it will not make a difference with his feet die, so that's good. Not going to deal the heavy blow. We're just going to take 4 more damage. We are down to 6 out of 26 endurance as we're entering the forested cape of Eryn Vorn. Oh man, we are looking really, really bad here. Iorlas is going to roll with our swords. I don't know what to do here. This could be a moment to cause Nimloth's Tear to shine, but these are wargs. These are not evil men or undead. I think that it's not going to capture the awe in them. Even though they have some semblance of intelligence, it's not going to affect them like it will evil men. So Iorlas is just going to swing out at, let's say, the chieftain. Oh, there it is. That's a Gandalf rune, which is good because our skill dice were terrible. 2, 2, 3. So a Gandalf rune is an automatic piercing blow. It has no hate to use its speed to make this ill-favored because of the fire. And Iorlas is going to deal some damage. We got no 6s, but let's see if this warg chieftain, who has an armor of 1, oh boy, it's going to be really hard for them to beat the 16 injury rating of Nimloth's Tear. And they do not even come close, as once again they are circling Iorlas, these 2 wargs that remain. The other one has an arrow through its eye and through the back of its head. It's laying slumped on the ground. The other 2 wargs are circling and occasionally getting in these jumps, leaps, pads, these raking claws and these sinking teeth. And Iorlas waits a moment, knowing that the other warg is going to launch at the same time as the chieftain, the larger one. Iorlas waits to see the chieftain make its first move, and he's going to launch himself into it, and he's going to bury Nimloth's Tear into this warg. The other warg is going to attempt to attack and gets a 10. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. A 10 on the feet die for another potential piercing wound. No 6s, luckily, so just 3 more damage. We are down. If we take 1 more fang hit from this warg, we are going to be out of endurance and be down and dying. So we have to roll, oh my gosh, protection. And again, handily succeed against a 14. That's good. That's a 7 plus a 6. That's another 6 as a special success. So I think that with the momentum of having taken out the leader, this other warg is now one-on-one against Iorlas, and Iorlas is going to use that to get an additional die on his sword attack against it. Oh boy, it has doable amount of endurance left. We just need a hit and a 6, and we get, oh, barely. We got a 1 on the feet die, but we got 1 6 on the skill dice plus 2 4s and a 1, so that's going to be, oh, but we're weary, so that 1 is useless. 16 is enough to hit this. Oh, it's because it's against our strength 10. We succeed, and we can use the heavy blow feature of the special success to deal 10 endurance, just defeating this warg before it has a chance to sink its fangs into us one more time. Holy Eru Iluvatar, bless Iorlas. That is so close. Being jumped by 3 wargs in the outlying woods of the Cape of Eryn Vorn. Iorlas is bleeding from his shoulder. His left arm is once again, more broken than it was before. He's not sure he's going to get that feeling back or that functionality back in that left arm. He's holding Nimloth's Tear, and he is coughing blood. He is severely wounded. He has 3 endurance left. He is weary. Oh my goodness. We're going to have to take 2 days to rest just to get over this wound, but I don't think we have the time to do that. I don't think there's a safe place to stay in Eryn Vorn. These are dark lands. But Iorlas has defeated a warg chieftain, and now the silence. No howls in these woods. Everything is so quiet for the first time. Iorlas is standing near his fire, which is still crackling, surrounded by 3 enormous, still lying bodies of wargs. He similarly slumps down, laying next to the fire, and what do we do here? According to the book, a short rest would normally allow recover lost endurance equal to strength, but because we're wounded, we cannot benefit from these short rests. Instead, a prolonged rest, which is like a night's rest, a night's sleep, will allow Iorlas to recover a number of endurance equal to the strength score because he is wounded. So he's going to be at 9 endurance out of 26, still weary leading into the next day, and still have 1 day of wounds to deal with. This is really bad, and it's one of those things where I don't know that he would travel. I think that he would be incredibly ill-advised to move on. There is a healing skill. I don't think that, one, Iorlas is not great in it. He does have 2 skills in it. Maybe if we roll healing and can dress our wounds, we will heal the wound by today, if we succeed. So this is a TN of 12 because of heart. So, whoa! Okay, and we just get it. I rolled an 11 on my feat die, which, as a reminder for everybody, is the misprinted one, so it's only a 1. But I got a 6 and a 5 on my skill dice to make a total of 12, which is a success. So that's going to allow us to reduce our wounded number by an additional 1. This is my little quick homebrew rule to just kind of keep things moving. So we are no longer wounded, which will allow us to regain, I'm just going to say, another 6, equal to our strength, endurance for the night, bringing us up to 15. So we are no longer weary, no longer wounded, but we are still low on endurance. And I think that that's maybe enough that Iorlas would venture out for 1 more day. And this may be a bad idea, but that's going to be what we do. So we're going to journey once more and probably end this episode on whatever event happens next, because those wargs messed us up. Alright, we're going to roll our 2 feat die and 2 skill dice for this next leg of the journey, deeper into Eryn Vorn. Ooh, we do get a Gandalf rune and 1 Tengwar rune, so that is a great roll that Iorlas is able to continue traveling. If there's one thing he can do as a ranger, as a messenger, it is navigate this world and make his way through these treacherous forests of Eryn Vorn, even if he is still far from the actual promontory of the Cape where he is being tasked with investigating what is happening to these trees. But we are going to do this. I think that we're going to consider this moving quietly with our special success. We're not moving fast, but this is, I think, just flavor, narratively speaking. Iorlas needs to lay low as he moves through these woods because he is hurt. And so we are going to roll on the events table. We're going to roll a d12 and get another Gandalf rune. Holy cow. So that is a joyful sight. And there is a table for this as well, and it says if the roll succeeds, we regain 1 hope. Somehow I have not used any hope, which probably was a bad call, but let's go ahead and roll on the joyful sight table. As always, that is a d6 on this table over here, and we get a 5, which says Ancient Monument. Ooh, interesting. Awareness to recognize its significance. We have a very good awareness with Iorlas. He has 3 skills. There are 3 ranks in that skill, so we're going to roll. And roll very poorly, but just eke out a success with 1 Tengwar rune, luckily. So that is a 6 on a 10 total on the skill dice with a 2 on the feat die. But a 12 is the TN with a special success. So we're obviously going to not only recognize its significance, we're going to regain a hope, and with our special success, I think that we are going to gain insight. That seems like a reasonable one. Alright, this is perfect. What ancient monument lies further into the Cape of Eryn Vorn? And for the record, I have not shared like my map, the Journeys hex map that comes with this, but I've been using it as I travel through here. And this is actually going to put us right at the edge of the perilous hex that makes up the actual Cape of Eryn Vorn. So we are about to enter the actual... We're going to like zoom in basically on these hexes and turn the next journey roll into more exploration of the site of the corruption and the site of the investigation that Iorlas has been sent down here for. So right before that, we spot an ancient monument. Let's take a look in the book, see if there's any inspiration, and then also maybe we roll on the lore tables. And with a Gandalf rune, I can always roll on the fortune table as well, so I think I might do that. I'm going to take a look at the Ruins of the Lost Realm book because that has information on Eryn Vorn to see if there's any monuments that might be interesting. And I'm going to roll a d12 here, a feat die on the fortune table. Getting a 4. You gain favored ground. Oh, interesting. Okay. And then let's go ahead and roll twice on the lore tables just for fun. There's a 6 and a 5. And a 1 and a 3. So our word salad to play with is some combination of await, bold, or burden, and mourn, mighty, and path. Ooh. Bold path? Yeah, bold path seems right up Iorlas' alley, and that means that Iorlas sees this ancient monument. He, thanks to the fortune table gaining favored ground, means that I think Iorlas sees a trail that very few would see. He also notices maybe that as he gets deeper into these woods, he's not alone. Maybe the rumors of the wild men are true, but the path that's more obvious that many he would assume would take if they were in his shoes in this spot, that is a trap. It is luring people into danger, and he sees the bold path that must be taken. Now let's see if we can find anything about this monument specifically. There are no monuments on the Cape of Eryn Vorn. It is a vast, dark, pine-dominated forest up this cape, and the actual promontory, the edge of the cape itself, which sticks out most into the sea, is along unclimbable sea cliffs. At the top of, or edge of, or end of this cape is a huge black burial mound that has been seen for ages, but never, as far as anyone knows, explored. I don't think this is what Iorlas sees. I'm going to ask the telling table, as opposed to a monument, do we see something perhaps terrifying? I'm going to say it's 50-50, so 6 or higher. That is a Gandalf rune. Again, amazing. I'm going to roll one more time on the fortune table. Get a 9. And it's perfect. You learn or realize something which gives you helpful insight into your mission. It's not a kindly or goodly sight. It is bones dangling and hanging from the branches of the trees here at the edge of the woods of Eryn Vorn. And the soil and ground around the roots of the enormous, huge pines and darkwood trees of Eryn Vorn seem to soak in the blood. And that is when I'm going to roll one more time on the telling table. You know what? I'm going to roll awareness here. Does Iorlas notice? Absolutely. That is a 20. That is when he notices not movement of any of the wild men, the woses, or the druidine, as some may call them. No, he sees the movement of one of the trees themselves. And that is where we're going to end this session. I have some ideas. We're going to have to look into some things. I'm going to have to do some more homework. I did just finish reading Unfinished Tales, which, whoa, was there some mind-blowing stuff in there, especially about what happened at the beginning of this campaign. And if you read the small section on notes from the Third Age from Unfinished Tales, Saruman sending Dunlendings north to map and get names for the Shire and all of this stuff, it's just like Drewston plays perfectly into it. I was like ecstatic reading the Unfinished Tales part about the Third Age. I was like, whoa, I think I'm doing okay. Anyway, I hope that you're enjoying this. And if you are, please find me on the social medias. Give me a follow. I'll be posting a lot of mostly just like, hey, look at this new game I got. Hey, new episode out. I will never try and make you feel bad about FOMO or hype myself up in weird markety ways. I just want people to find me because they like these games and hopefully like my style of storytelling and inspire you to play these games yourself. Grab them, give it a shot, just go. You'll find an amazing story in there, and I believe in you. yeah, if you like it, leave a rating and review on your podcatcher of choice, which just helps whatever an algorithm is point me towards other people who might also like this kind of thing. If you want to chat more, email me at reneplaysgamespod@gmail.com or join the DMs After Dark Discord. I'm always in there hanging out, chatting about all kinds of things. Again, mostly nerd stuff, but real life too. And yeah, until next time, listen to the people when they tell you to take some easy W's. And by W's, they mean wins, Rene, not wounds.